So with the release of Assassin's Creed Mirage in October of last year, there was a common criticism of the game among many people, one I shared. And even though, as I've said numerous times, that I really enjoyed Mirage, the cutscene quality was one of, if not possibly my biggest issue with the game, which really speaks to a larger issue for the series as a whole, since cutscene quality seems to be on a downward descent in each new game, starting with Odyssey. Which is very perplexing, because usually even if people don't like a Ubisoft game, they can at least typically say positive things about it when it comes to the visuals and presentational quality. But when Assassin's Creed Mirage has significantly worse looking cutscenes than games in the series from 10 to even almost 15 years ago, you have a major problem. To the casual fan, maybe this issue isn't quite as noticeable and bothersome, but to those of us who've played every Assassin's Creed game, we know the series is capable and has had better cutscene quality than this in the past. So when I'm watching some of these cutscenes, I can't help but feel frustrated as to why they look worse than a game from 2014. You would think this is something that would only improve over time as technology advances and we get better graphics in these games, but for some bizarre reason, it's been just the opposite for Assassin's Creed in the past 5 years. Now, there's likely multiple reasons as to why that's the case, and I'll break down what I believe some of those reasons to be, but for now I want to talk about cutscene quality in general for the series, and how it's changed over the years, leading us to where we are now. So with Assassin's Creed 1 being the first game in the series, and in many ways an experiment, the cutscene quality obviously doesn't hold up quite as well as the other games. It's actually the only game in the series without motion captured cutscenes, hence why you can move around in each cutscene and change the camera angles at the press of a button. And while it may not have aged the best, it's still not all that bad. I'd even argue some of the character animation looks more realistic and alive than some of the more recent titles like Odyssey, Valhalla, and Mirage. And because the first game didn't utilize motion capture, I feel some more time was put into these handcrafted character animations, whereas in the more recent games, a lot of them are automated. It's just a simple way to save time and money in these large games. But moving on to Assassin's Creed 2, this is when the series first started using motion capture, and man, the difference in cutscene quality from AC1 to AC2 is immeasurable. The characters look far more alive, the movements look human, the cinematography makes it feel like you're playing in a live-action movie. While Assassin's Creed 2 may not have the best graphic fidelity and detail by today's standards, these cutscenes are still really well crafted, and in some instances look even better than cutscenes from Mirage in my opinion, which sounds absolutely absurd. A game from 2009 should not have better cutscenes than a game from 2023, but AC2 made the most out of what it had to work with. And as you would expect, the following games look even better with improved character models, better graphic fidelity, and improved animations. But then came along Assassin's Creed 3, the first game in the series to use performance capture for a lot of its cutscenes. For those who are unfamiliar, the difference is motion capture is just simply recording the movement of the body, while performance capture records everything including the body, head, face, fingers, and oftentimes even the voice of the person in the suit. Roger Craig Smith, who voiced Ezio, wasn't actually in the mocap suit in those games. That was someone else who captured the movements and body of Ezio, while Roger Craig Smith delivered the lines and voice for the character. But with Assassin's Creed 3, they started doing performance capture, where a lot of the scenes were actually acted out on the stage with the actual actors and the suits and everything. So Noah Watts, who played Connor Kenway, recorded not only the voice, but all of Connor's movements and body language throughout AC3. He even talked at length in the Assassin Den podcast about how important it was for him to bring a certain confident, physical body language to Connor in the scenes to represent the character's personality. And a lot of games, especially nowadays, do performance capture to get more real, authentic performances out of their actors, since they are actually acting out the scene almost like it's theater or something, rather than just solely delivering lines in a booth. It's not like they used performance capture for every scene, but they did for a majority of the main story cutscenes, which is a large part as to why the quality looks so good in these older games. And then we have Assassin's Creed Unity and Syndicate, which has some of the most beautiful cutscenes of the entire series. From character models to animation, and even lighting and framing, these two games still have some incredibly cinematic cutscenes that look miles better than what we are getting today. Like this scene in particular, where Arno discovers that Pierre Bellic is a traitor. This scene looks incredible, from the lighting, the close-ups of each character, their movements and expressions. It's just beautifully done. And then, as I've said numerous times before, Assassin's Creed Origins, I believe, still has the best presentation of any game in the entire series, and that's especially true for the cutscenes. But after Origins and starting with Odyssey is when there was a noticeable dip in quality. Make no mistake, there are still some good-looking cutscenes in Odyssey, but they're very spread out throughout the game and are typically only in the most important moments of the story. Same deal with Valhalla. There are some really good-looking cutscenes in that game that use motion and performance capture, like that one scene with Eivor and Basim talking at the campfire, but then the rest of the scenes look dull and lifeless in comparison. For Odyssey and Valhalla, they did this because the games are just so massive, and it would be very expensive and time-consuming to motion capture everything, so they decided to pick and choose the best moments to use it. That's very common for large RPG games, but with Mirage, there's no excuse. Mirage is around the same length of those old games, so the excuse that it'd take too much time or is too expensive doesn't really apply. I already talked about this at length in my massive Mirage review a while back, but we know Ubisoft Bordeaux was rather restricted on time and budget when it came to developing this game, which is likely why the cutscene quality can feel so poor, and there's only like 2 or 3 scenes in the entire game that actually use motion capture. But even so, this is still a main Assassin's Creed release. Ubisoft should have given the time and resources to make these cutscenes up to the quality standard of those older games. I shouldn't be able to point to a 9-year-old game and say it had better cutscenes. I don't know, did they think because the game was cheaper than normal that people would just excuse the cutscene quality? Look, like I said, I really like Mirage, I like the game as a whole, I even think it has a good story, and it would have been a lot better had it not been restricted by its own presentational quality. But the characters and their animations sometimes look so robotic and lifeless that it takes you out of the story. The amount of times I've seen characters in the last 3 games awkwardly cross their arms, point, or do some sort of awkward gesture that no real human being would ever do is laughable. And again, it's not solely just the lack of motion capture either. The character models also look worse. Compare the character models of Valhalla and Mirage to Origins. Origins looks so much better in every way. It's just bizarre because you would think, oh, I don't know, because of common sense that the cutscenes would only get better over time, but for the last 5 years, it's been just the opposite. Now, I would expect Codename Red's cutscenes to look better than the last couple games, but similar to Odyssey, it's going to be a large RPG game, so motion capture cutscenes will likely be cherry-picked for specific moments, and we're still likely going to have a lot of those robotic, awkward-looking animations we've had several games in a row now. Again, you would think with all of Ubisoft's resources, this wouldn't be an area of concern in their games, but here we are. Hopefully this gets better in the near future, because I don't see how you can be satisfied knowing the presentation in your games your company made over a decade ago was better than the ones you're making now. Like, surely there are still some people at this company that aren't happy with that and want to improve. Anyways, sorry for the rant. This is obviously a topic I'm very passionate about. But let me know in the comments what you guys think about the recent cutscene quality in Assassin's Creed, and what game in the series do you think has the best presentation? Again, for me, it's definitely Origins, followed by Unity and Syndicate. But other than that, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. A special thank you to my members for supporting me as always, it means a lot, and have a good rest of your day, everybody.